All right, so today we will do the Docker installation and we'll use AWS Cloud, so it will be on cloud, right? So we'll see how we can do the installation and then we will do some hands-on thing and we'll do some Docker activities just to begin with and to understand how Docker looks like, where the information is stored, what are the default things, default information which Docker provides, how we can see, and other things we'll try to explore, right? So let's get started. So Docker installation, you can install on, basically Docker is compatible almost on all operating systems. If you're on Mac, you can install Docker. If you're on Windows or Ubuntu, Ubuntu is another Linux flavor operating system which has recently launched a couple of years ago back. And Ubuntu is very advanced Linux operating system. Basically, it comes with a lot of security enhancement on user usage, safety, and performance-wise also it is very fast. All right. So we'll try to install on Ubuntu also. So as I said, de facto standard is Linux. All right. So in Linux we'll take Ubuntu as our flavor operating system. Ubuntu is the recent modern operating system. We'll try to understand Ubuntu. If you are aware of Ubuntu, well and good. If you're not aware of Ubuntu, don't worry about it. Right? All the doubts, all the learnings, it's a new path which we'll pick up and we will try to understand and we'll try to observe everything from Ubuntu. Right? It's very simple. Just leave on me and then I'll try to make you aware of Ubuntu also and we will learn together. All right. So this is the thing which we are going to pick for our Docker installation. We will do installation on Linux and the flavor would be. All right. So once you come to the Ubuntu, now for Linux side, normal user credentials we cannot use for installation. It needs a special credential. Normally admin kind of level credential are needed for doing any installation or any admin kind of activity. Installation also is part of admin activity. So we use in Linux, we use sudo account. Sudo account is basically a root account or it's an admin account on that machine. So we use sudo account for doing the installation because normal user we cannot use for installation. We'll be using the sudo, which is nothing but a root account in Linux. Let me see if I can use the pointer. Yeah. So we'll be using the sudo, right? apt is basically Ubuntu command, right? If you know other Linux operating system like yum or rpm, these are various package utility, or I would say the Linux package manager utility, where we will manage all kind of installations. So apt is basically for Ubuntu. Apt get update. First time whenever we log in on the machine, first thing what we do update. Update what it will do? It will just check all the OS level libraries, packages, and it will do the indexing. Right? If you do verification validation, and my OS might be old, right? The OS which has been loaded, it might be the image has been created few months ago, or maybe a 1 year ago, or maybe later, right? So today, if there are any changes, it will automatically do the update, right? So and it will do the indexing. So always we fire the update command. Normally, whenever you do any installation, right? Normally, whenever you do installation, the first command before you begin with the installation, we do update, right? So that my OS is update, indexing has been done, right? It does automatically, and then you do installation, right? So that all the packages will be aligned as per the indexing, right? So it's basically default command of Linux. So all command in Ubuntu will begin with apt, right? Apt update or apt install. You see, apt get, right? Apt get is basically Ubuntu command, but in shortcut I can use apt also. Previously, when Ubuntu was launched, we were using apt-get. That all commands apt-get and then update, install, right? The sub command could be anything, but apt-get is the Ubuntu command, right? I can use apt also. Apt is also fine. But in the recent versions of Ubuntu, we can use shortcuts also. No need to type the full command. Apt-get. We can use apt also, right? Some people say apt, some people say apt, right? Apt-get. Right? Some people say apt-get, right? Or some people say APT. It's based on how your convenience or your based on your thing how you pronounce. Based on that, we can pronounce, right? So people say apt get or people say apt get, right? Anything is fine. Don't get confused. All right. So update, as I said, it's a default command. When first time when we log in or when you begin with the installation, always as a good habit or as a standard coding standard or as a best practices, we always do update. Then I want to do installation. Now the Docker installation package name is docker.io. This is the Ubuntu package, right? So I will mention the Docker installation package name. The package name for Docker on Ubuntu is docker.io. This is the package name. So install and then docker.io. If you fire this command, it will ask you a question, right? Which path you want to install, C program files you want to install, or some varlib folder you want to install. You can change the path, right? Or you want to keep the default setting and you want to go with a silent installation. Always mention -y. -y means yes, yes, yes. By default, it will take yes, yes, yes. Question, it will by default take yes, yes from you, and it will do the silent installation. So just one command and my Docker will be installed. If you are on some other, not on Ubuntu, but you are on, let's say, CentOS operating system or other operating system, maybe RHEL, Red Hat, Enterprise Linux operating system, use yum, right? So APT is for Ubuntu, yum is for CentOS or RHEL. Likewise, we have RPM, right? So this is basically Linux package manager. And then fire the command. If you are on CentOS, just mention Docker, because in CentOS, the package name for Docker is only Docker. But if you are on Ubuntu, docker.io is the package. All right. This is how we will be doing the installation. Just one command and I'll be doing the installation. Basically, it's an installer file, or I would say Docker package. We have to just mention it will extract all the files from this package and my Docker will be installed. Once you install it, the first thing is we have to run one container, right? So just to verify, right? So there is a ready-made image is available. Hello Docker, hello world is available. This is basically image, and Docker run is basically a container command. So once my Docker is installed, I can quickly just run one container, start one container, and check whether my Docker install is properly done or not. If this, when I run this command, Docker and hello world, basically this is an image. So when container will be started from this image is programmed in such a way that it will display hello, right? It will display the hello message, right? So if you get the hello from Docker, that means your installation has really gone properly and installation has no issues with it, right? Your installation is successful and it will give you the message hello from Docker. If there is any issue, then you will not get this message. It will tell you there is some error, right? So it's just a verification step, right? We will just we will spin up one container and Docker will say hello to me, right? So Docker will say hello to me means my installation has been successfully done, right? So this is what we will do. Simple command, and anyhow I'll be sharing this PPT and everything with you guys. All right, so let's go to cloud. So this is my Amazon cloud. I will log in with my credential. All right, so this is how we can log in, right? So it's very simple, right? How do you log in? Just come here and say Amazon console, right? Amazon console, just come here and log in here on Amazon console page. All right, and then here your accounts and everything is there, right? So just click on sign in or log in back, whatever is available, just go and log in, right? It will open your page, your name will be available here and all that, right? This is the default home page. So normally what we do, we will not be using much from this AWS, but we need machines. So just click on EC2, right? The first tab on EC2. If you don't get this message, always look at the black bar, right? The black title bar on the top, like this top bar, and there are some dotted lines, right? Are here, right? So if you see the symbol services and with some dots, right? So basically 3 dots horizontal and 3 dots vertical. So these two, three, total 9 dots you will see, and this is the blinking. When you hover your mouse over these services, you will see this thing, right? Again, you can click on EC2 here. So either way, you can directly from dashboard click on EC2, or this is the tier. Now, what is this EC2 is all about, right? When you log in the AWS, EC2 is basically the short form of Elastic Cloud Compute. All right. So basically, what happens is AWS has done the patent registration by the name Elastic. So they have renamed everything by their patent name called Elastic. So even the virtual server or virtual machines we call Elastic Cloud Compute. So cloud compute, there are two C, Elastic Cloud Compute, two C. So in short, we say EC2 because there are two C, Elastic, E for Elastic, Cloud Compute, right? So that is how it has been named. And in short, we say EC2, basically virtual servers. So we can just click here and it will just open the default homepage. This is basically left hand side. The scroll bar you see with a lot of options available. This is basically your itemized scroll bar, right? Whatever item you want to pick will open. You clicked on EC2, so it will open EC2 dashboard. Where it will open dashboard on the middle pane, right? This is my middle pane where it will tell me how many instances are running, any IP address has been assigned, any load balancer I have created, any snapshot I have taken, right? So all that it will tell, any volumes I have attached or any security groups I have configured, all this info it will be shown here. And here it will give you the summary. Here it will give you the summary. So I have selected and free tier in use, right? Currently nothing is used, but we will be using all free tier only. So EC2 is our main thing on AWS. When you come, open this EC2 dashboard and you will see here, right? So currently nothing, no instances are running. What do you mean by instance? Instance is nothing but machine, or I would say any server, which I have configured previously. You will be able to see over here. Currently I have done nothing, right? So it is showing zero running, right? So just click this button, all right? And always remember, we will be using this horizontal bar, top one, right? With this yellow, only this first line, everything is here, right? Only on this top bar we'll be using. Currently it's because there is no instances are running, so we cannot connect because no machines are available. When the machines you configure, you can connect by using the connect button. There is another tab where you can stop the instance, you can start the instance, reboot, all that thing. Whatever we do normal, all those things are here. All right, all those things, actions and all that. Currently, no machines are there, but normally we'll be using only this vertical horizontal bar, right? Or I would say all my menu bars are available here, right? So we'll be doing it here, right? Currently, it's orange button. It says launch the instance. That means currently no machines are available. I can start by launching my own instance. Instance is nothing but in AWS, the machine which you want to start with, right? So you just click on here. As I said, right, don't get confused. Come to EC2 dashboard and we'll be using this from the top toolbar only, right? Just below the black line, we'll be using this top toolbar only, right? All the buttons which are available here, basically four buttons: connect, instance state, actions, and launch instances. Just click on launch instances as it is already shown in a color, orange color. Just click on this button, right? Now it will open the pan for launch instance, right? Where you have to enter few things. So basically it's a templatized thing, right? Templatized things, it will capture the inputs from you, right? Which name, right? What IP address, what port number, all that it will capture the information and it will launch the instance. So basically it's a ready-made templatized thing. You have to just provide the details. All right. Let me start with details. Right. It says name, right? You want to start this machine. What should be the name, right? Let me give some name as it's going to be my Docker machine. All right. Both the things are allowed. You can give capital or small, no matter, right? It will be allowed. So this is going to be my Docker machine. So I can give the name as Docker. Then come on here on the second tab, which operating system, right? OS images, right? So OS images are available. So Amazon Linux. Amazon Linux is basically Amazon. There is no Linux developed by Amazon. They are just the facilitator, but they are doing some advertising, right? So you will don't get confused with Amazon Linux, right? So it will open, it will take you to the CentOS Linux, which is default. Mac, if you want to use Mac, click on Mac. If you want to use Ubuntu, click on Ubuntu. If you want to use Windows, Red Hat, there are many flavors, right? Almost all operating system it supports, right? SUSE Linux or Debian, right? Anything, right? So let's pick up the Ubuntu. Once you,
In
yeah.
industry, right? If you see in corporate, maximum which OS is used for production.
Currently, if you ask me, Ubuntu is the only thing, or I would say the corporate favorite. Ubuntu is the operating system. It comes with a lot of security features, easy to use, and it's a modern operating system,
Okay.
right? So that is the reason I'm also picking up the Ubuntu so that you can, guys, since we are already investing time and money, so why don't we pick up the valuable things? So I'm picking all the things which are modern, which are related to the modern industry, which are in high demand in outside in the market. Those things I'm picking up.
And what is the second best operating system apart from Ubuntu?
Ubuntu, then people are using Red Hat. Red Hat is coming with a lot of enterprise kind of suite. They are offering so many free softwares if you take Red Hat. So normally the financial sector, right, banking sector and all those guys, they are not the techie guys. So they take the entire suite and they take the support from single vendor, Red Hat. So that is why they are good, but it's a bit expensive, right? You have to
Okay.
pay the price. So Red Hat is now acquired by IBM, and you know IBM how IBM charges, right? For each and every single penny they are going to charge, right? But people for banking sector and all that sector they need support because of the production high demand software and applications to be always up and running because majority of people will be logging through the web, right? So they always use a single vendor support, and Red Hat gives a lot of things, right? If you know the OpenShift which is running on top of Kubernetes, if you know Ansible, Chef, Puppet, right? All these are coming from Red Hat product. So first is Ubuntu, second is Red Hat, according to me. I may be wrong, but most of my study and most of I am interacting with a lot of vendors, and these are the only two operating systems which are in market.
So all the work can be moved instead of Windows, we can move to Ubuntu, right? It makes
Yes,
sense.
it's production. Yes, mostly production. It's always Linux only as the most stable. See, Windows you will find a lot of issues, and Windows a lot of things doesn't come on free of things. See, Ubuntu and all those things are free. Only you have to purchase the support.
Thank you, Prashant.
All right, guys. All right, so I picked the Ubuntu. The moment I pick it, the color will change. If you see, all rest are showing still white, but this color has changed to some sky blue, right? So that is how the color will be changed because I selected this thing. And then it will tell me the free tier, right? We always use free tier. So a lot of free tier operating systems are. Current version of Ubuntu is 22.04 LTS, right? LTS means long-term support, right? That means even you can get the free of cost support. That is what I was not preferring Windows, right? Because Windows will charge you upfront, and these guys they are coming with a free support, and you see they are giving SSD volumes also, right? So free tier support, and the current version is 20.04, which is recently they have launched, right? We are using this version, the previous version before 22 to 20.04 LTS. This is again the current version, and in production it's up and running version 20.04 LTS. LTS means long term support, and it is also free tier. All right, so select this version which is stable and which is tried and tested from last few years. So we'll pick up this version, and it is again free tier, right? It's not going to charge anything. By default 64-bit architecture, that is fine, right? Nowadays we are using 64 architecture, and once you select it, it will tell you here, right? Ubuntu this you have selected, and it will automatically take the build from the repository, right? So it will be deployed on my machine, which I'm going to launch. I'm building the machine currently for my Docker installation. So I'm picking up the right machines, operating system, all that, right? So cloud gives you all these options. So we are picking, right, one by one item so that we can set the environment for our Docker. All right, we are in the verge of setting up the environment, right? And
What
it's
is that?
verified by, yeah,
What is that HVM?
sorry, where?
Ubuntu Server 20.4 LTS. LTS is a long-term support. What is that
Yeah,
H?
HVM, I think some hard disk, not sure. Not sure, but I'll find it out, right? We just Google it quickly and find it. Or if you
Oh,
can
oh,
Google it, it will be best.
oh.
All right, we'll find it out. There are so many things they have added, few terminologies which I'm not aware, frankly speaking, because we don't deal with those things directly. We just select OS and the volume which are attached to my OS. But we'll find it out, not a big deal. All right. Now, this is really important. When you come to the third tab, which is instance type. Instance type means what would be the configuration you want to pick, right? When I say configuration means in terms of CPU and memory, right? In terms of CPU and memory. So, right? So this is basically Amazon has some family category, right? So T1, T2, T3, T4, and in each category they have defined the various configuration, right? So T1 is very low level configuration. We cannot go. We can always start with T2 or the higher configuration. If you want to open and see, just click this drop down, right? So if you see T2 Nano, right? T2 Nano is just the name of the configuration. It's just a template name. But here are the details, right? It comes with one CPU and 0.5 GB of memory, right? One CPU and zero point 0.5 GB of memory, right? And it's the current generation they are giving, right? So here you will see all the things, right? So what they do, charging and all that thing. We are not interested in. It's very low level configuration. We will at least need one CPU and 1 GB RAM, right? One CPU, 1 GB RAM is quite a good configuration for my Docker environment, right? For my Docker machine to be configured with this configuration with 1 CPU and 1 GB RAM is quite suitable for my Docker, and it's free tier also, right? I need not to pay even a single penny, completely free, right? Likewise, if you go down, right? So 1 CPU and now 2 GB RAM, right? 1 CPU and 4 GB RAM. Likewise, they have given the name of these templates, right? T2 small, T2 medium. So we will always go with T2 micro, right? The moment you select, it will display over here 1 CPU, 1 GB RAM. Right? 1 CPU, 1 GB RAM is quite suitable for Docker, right? Remember, Docker is lightweight, doesn't need too many resources, right? So I can do in my installation and I can spin up multiple containers also, right? Even front end, back end, middle tail, all type of containers, right? And that is the power of lightweight. How it works, I'll show you when we will start building the image. That time I'll explain you some concept of lightweight, right? Basically, it's a layer concept, right? So layer by layer, I will tell you how internally what is the architecture it follows, right? That time I'll talk about it, right? So what did I select? Everything is free tier. Here it is free tier. OS which I select is free tier, and with the support and with SSD drive. SSD drives are really fast drives, right? So we have selected this thing, and then this is also free. All right, everything is free. How long it is free? That again I will tell you. It is free for, if you see here, right? It is free for 1 year, right? Free for in your first year, it is free, which includes 750 of hours T2 micro. That means I can use T2 micro or T3 micro absolutely free for 1 year, right? Which is quite a good time for me. Later, what we can do, after 1 year, register with new email ID, right? Again, delete this account and recreate new account, and again you will get a free 1 year free, absolutely free. I've been doing from last couple of years. All right, so that is how it will be free, right? So, and that is the thing I selected always Amazon Cloud, because I take machine directly from here. All right, now login. How do you log in? You don't log in with username and password, right? That is the traditional way and old methodology. And how long you can remember the password? At the max 10-digit character, or maybe if you are super smart, 15-digit characters, or if you are super smart, 20-digit characters. That if you go beyond that, you yourself will forget it, and every day you will be struggling with the thing, right? For security purposes, we never use login and password. What we use basically key pair, right? We use key pair. That it's already named here, key pair. Basically, there are two types of files which it will create for my login. One is private, another is public. Public will stay with my Amazon account itself. It will be automatically tagged. When you first time when you register, automatically generates your ID, your account ID, and some dummy password with encryption string and all that. It will automatically generate one public key here, right? Private key, when you first time create it, only during that time it will be created, and you have to download, because Amazon is not going to download anything anywhere, right? Amazon is not going to store your private key. Private key, it will, as soon as you create it, only first time it will tell you that okay, please download on your local laptop and keep it safe, right? Because Amazon is not going to track, Amazon is not going to save anywhere. All right, so this is the thing. So when you come first time, right, you have to just click on the create new key pair, it will create it, right? Public and private keys, and you can use for rest of your life. That's only one time process. Second time when you come, just click the drop down and you can see which key you want to use. It will pop up here. So, but you have to provide the key. It will only just tell you the name. You have to provide the key every day, right? So these are the keys I'm using previously, right? So let me create new key so that you can understand it, right? So select the key or create new. I will click on create new key pair, right? And then it will open the small window where I can create the key, right? What should be the name? Give any name, right? DevOps key or my AWS key. It's already exists. 1, 2, 3, 4. Any name, right? You can give your name also, right? You can give your name also, or you can give my AWS key or anything, right? It already exists. So let me say 1, 2, right? And these are the encryption algorithm, right? RSA encryption, private public key, both, as I said, private and public it will create with encrypted engine. Basically, these are algorithms it will take, and it will do the encryption automatically. Or you can check ED22519, which is again a new way of encryption which AWS use. It is included in AWS. Previously, only one was there, but now there are two things. And you can use either this or this, anything, right? So you can use this thing. This is the previous thing, and we have been using from years and years. This is the recently they have added. Right? Again, another encryption algorithm, or I would say again algorithm engine, which has been included in AWS. You can use, and then you can store the file right in two format. One is ppk. Ppk, you know, putty, right? When I want to take any remote session of any Linux server, use putty, put the IP address and credential, right? I will be able to log into my server remotely from my laptop. I can take a session on my any of the Linux servers remotely, right? PAM is basically a modern way where you can do SH. SH is basically a client, a remote client to connect to the server, right? So putty, if you are comfortable with putty, use putty, or if you want to use OpenSSH, you can use OpenSSH. SSH is the fastest and safest because it will always use encrypted credentials and all that thing. So use this thing, or you can use putty. Anything is fine. All right, and then select create key pair. Right, this is the name I've given. Right, when I say create, it will automatically download that key on my laptop. Right, if you see, this is just got downloaded, right? Only first time, right? Earlier we used to manually download it, and if you miss it, right, next time it will ask you for the key, and if you miss it, right, and Amazon will not keep this key. If you miss it, then you have to recreate again, right? But now they have improved the this thing also, and now it is getting downloaded automatically, only first time, right? So this will be in my download folder. You can keep it or move it to some other storage path where you want to put it. You can do that. All right, so this has been created. Now some network settings, right? So these network settings are nothing but my firewall, right? So firewall here is denoted by a different name called security group, right? Firewall is basically intended which port you want to open, right? You cannot open all the ports, right? If you open all the ports, then it is easily targeted to be by the attackers. They can target my machine and they can attack it if you open all the ports. So it is always safe to open only precise the port, which ports you need or which application you want to configure on which port, only those ports you should open, right? So now the firewall is called as security groups in all the cloud vendors, right? So Amazon also use security groups, and even Azure Cloud, Google Cloud. So on the cloud instances, we use different name. We don't call firewall, but it's called security group, right? So when I say security group, it's nothing but a firewall group only. So don't get confused. Anyhow, they are giving in the bracket that okay, firewall is now called by a new name called security group, right? So you can create the group or you can use the existing group. If you have previously created and you want to apply the say all the port numbers from those group, you can do that, right? So let me use Launch Wizard 1, my previous group, and I'll tell you how to edit and add port number, delete the port number, add new port numbers, all that thing, because we'll be using for our applications. So we'll be using all that thing. All right. So first time when you come, just create it. And when you create it, you will start with Launch Wizard 1, 2, 3, like that, like that. It will automatically take the default naming standard. And then if you come down the storage, right, how much space it is going to be there on your machine. So by default, it's come with 8 GB of RAM, right? Minimum 8 GB, right? If you reduce the thing, it will throw an error. But you are eligible up to 30 GB, right, on SSD, right? SSD are my static disk, right, which you can use for up to 30 GB. By default, come with 8 GB, but you can later add also and increase up to 30, which is comes as a free tier. You are eligible for up to 30 GB, right? EBS means Elastic Block Store, is basically storage of AWS, right? Block Store. They do all the storage on block store. SSD basically they are magnetic disk, right? So for performance wise, my IO input and output processing will be very fast on SSD disk. So we always use SSD instead of HSD. All right. So these are magnetic disks and they are really expensive, but Amazon is giving free of cost. So up to 30 we can go. By default, it comes with 80. We are fine with 80. All right, and that's it. Now here it will tell you how many, whatever thing we have selected, it will give you one summary here, and then you can just click on launch button, right? So this is the summary tab. So how many instances we want? We want only one machine. What all things we have selected? We have selected T2 micro, which comes with 1 CPU, 1 GB RAM, and is absolutely free tier. Security group, I've selected my security group, which the name of my security group is Launch Wizard 1, which I'll talk about it. Right, volume, only one volume, we haven't added, only one volume with is 8 GB RAM by default, which is good enough. Later, if you want to add, we can add it, but currently, right, one by default is fine. And it's absolutely free. It says Amazon is not going to charge you anything, absolutely free, right? And just then click on launch instead. So whatever information we have given, it will now load in my machine on one of the machine, because we requested for only one instance. So this is the instance. I means instance, and some random number it will generate, some ID it will create. So it is for internal Amazon. They track it, but I have given my machine name as Docker machine. I can call by Docker. So just click on this green button. Right now, this is the ID which was displayed on the green bar in the previous screen. The same ID is here, but I've given the name. I can remember the name. If you want to change anything, right, you can change this thing, Docker server or Docker machine or anything, right, or just keep Docker. We can keep it here, right? So if you don't remember ID is for internal AWS tracking, right? We will call by name, and you see this is now in running state. Sometimes it takes time, right? It load the image, operating system, and storage, attaching the disk and all that thing, right? It does very fast. Sometimes it may be in pending state, so wait for a time. And you see now this connect button is available, right? So as I said, we always be using only this top bar, right? All the options which are available, these four buttons will be using: connect, instance, state, actions, and launch, right? Only this is the thing you should remember, right? Otherwise you will be lost, right? I don't want you to lost and see where to click, right? So always remember the top bar, just below the black bar, this top bar with four options. This is the only the crux, right? Every day we'll be using these buttons and to launch the instance. So I click here and created this instance, right? This machine is created and it's up and running. Now I want to connect. So sometimes people forget to select this part and they say, okay, connect button is not working. It's not like that. You have to select it, right? Where you want to connect, right? You have to tell Amazon, right? You have to tell AWS that I want to connect to this machine, then it will be enabled. Otherwise, it will be grayed, right? If you don't select it and you just try to connect it, right? Because you have not selected and it is confused. So this button will be grayed out, right? You will not get this button, right? Only when you select it, then time it will come here and now you can connect. All right, when you come here on connected, you can use SSH client, and here are the steps, right? Open any SSH client, right? You can use mobile XTerm or any, if you're on Mac also come with, by default come with its own terminal, remote terminal. You can use that remote terminal, or you are coming with any Cisco software to connect to remote servers. If your company is using any particular software, you can just use that. And then you have to give permission, right? Read permission to your private file, right? My AWS 123 is the key, my private key, and it is got downloaded here. So you have to always give, though you are the admin, though you are the creator, right? Though you are the owner of this file, but still, see, in Ubuntu, the security is highly secure. That is why people prefer Ubuntu. So every time you have to give the read permission, right? So this is the command. This is the Linux command, change mode, or in short, we say ch mode is the command. 400 is the read permission, and read permission for your file. Which file? You give the file name. This is my file. All right, you have to give read name, and then copy this command, right? These notepad button are for copy. At the moment you click, they will be copy on the clipboard, and you can do copy paste easily. Right? No need to remember all this. You can copy, or you can hover the mouse and say Control C and Control V, either way, or you can just click on the notepad, right? So this is, you can click and you can connect it, or you can directly connect from AWS directly, right? So just click EC2 instance connect, right? These are my machine, like ID and machine name, everything display here. This is my Docker machine, right? You can just say connect. It will connect with default user Ubuntu. So I'm connecting on the fly, on the go, on the browser, AWS browser itself, right? So I have connected to this machine. All right. I hope this is visible. All right, so I've connected to this machine. By default, it's basically on Ubuntu. It gives you a lot of information, right? What is your memory utilization? Only 20%. 1 CPU, 1 GB we have taken, and out of which it is only using 21%. All right, and this is operating system we have selected. So it says welcome to Ubuntu. This is the machine and all that thing, operating system and all that thing will display the information. For documentation, you can always go to the official Ubuntu documentation portal and extract all the documentation information. Management, right? If you want to has this, basically Ubuntu is provided by Canonical. Canonical is the vendor, right? Very famous vendor. So you can go and take any support, right? Support, everything is here because they are giving support also. right? Today's date and time, right? We have created 27th of Jan, day is Saturday, and it follows UTC time, right? So UTC means 5.5 hours, right? Plus, right? We are here. So, and this is the thing which we are getting here, right? Now, here you can display IP address and all that also, right? So this is my default user. Just clear the screen by typing the command clear and clear the screen. All right. So this is the Ubuntu user and this is my machine IP address which I've connected, right? If you want to just go to cloud and check, right? So you can just go here and check. This is my public IP address of this machine, IP address, and this is my private. Basically, private IP address is your actual IP address of the machine, right? But you want to access from outside, right? We use public IP address. Public IP address is basically a dummy IP address, right? So we never expose the actual IP address to the outside world. Why? Because hackers will try to hack my machine. So what we do, we provide a dummy IP address on top of my actual IP, right? And that is what we call public IP. So for outside, it will be the public. Some random IP address it will generate, but internally it is embedded with my private IP. It will route everything to this machine automatically from this IP, right? But if vendor wants to do something, he cannot know my actual IP. That is why we are protecting the actual IP. Earlier, we were exposing the actual IP and people were directly attacking my application because my IP is exposed to our whole world. And we don't know who is attacking my application server. So now we are using public IP, right? It's embedded. Right? It's a new modern way. So this is my public IP address. I'll be using public IP address, right? Later on when I'll be exposing and doing my testing of my application from outside, right? So that time I'll be using and I'll tell you all the information about it. This is my actual IP, right? 172.31.35.57. This is my IP. And if you go back to our machine, right? So this is 35, 30, 172.31.35.57 is my actual IP address, right? But this is default by login by a normal user called Ubuntu, right? As I said, we cannot do installation with normal user. We have to use root privileges. That means admin privileges. So sudo use su, sudo one space su. Su means super user, right? Or substitute user, right? And then put minus sign or hyphen. I can say hyphen, right? One space and then hyphen sign or minus sign, right? So that it will not ask me any password. Minus sign means it will automatically take, and you see the root has been, right? It switched the user to root user, right? I'm no more using as root Ubuntu account, Ubuntu user, right? I switch the user to sudo user. Sudo user is root user, right? And no need to take notes and everything. And you have captured this information for you on the next slide, right? So here I have already provided login with root user. This is the command you have to use, sudo su hyphen, right? It will automatically switch to root user. All right. So same thing I have done it here. All right. Now we have to do the install, right? So sudo is already here, or if you want to type sudo, doesn't matter, or if you don't type sudo, that is also fine. apt get is the Ubuntu command, right? As I said, as a best practice, always update command, right? Update command you should use always. So when you use update, it will just do check all the packages related to Ubuntu OS, right? And it will create the indexing and everything. You see, it will give you all the thing 98, 99, but do verification, everything. It says working 100%. So it will basically create the indexing and all that packages, and it will do validation, verification. It is, and it says, right? So basically, it has created the indexing, right? At the bottom line, it will say, okay, all packaging listing has been done. That means the indexing has been done, right? And it's a good uh, choice, or I would say best practices methodology. Always run the update command so that indexing has been done. All right. Now we have done this thing, and I will clear the screen. All right. So this is the command I fired, apt update, right? All apt commands, right? Basically, whenever you are on Ubuntu, it begins with apt command, right? Apt get command, right? So I did update. Now I will do install, right? And the package name is docker.io, right? And I will give hyphen hyphen yes, or in Linux, when you use double hyphen, that means you have to type the full argument, right? But there is a shortcut also, right? The shortcuts always are denoted by single hyphen, right? So single hyphen and the first argument of your argument, first letter of your argument. So instead of typing full letter hyphen hyphen yes, I can say hyphen hyphen y, right? So this is the shortcut. But when you use double hyphen, right, that means you have to provide the full name of your argument, full path of your argument, which is yes, right? Or the shortcut is hyphen y. All right, single hyphen is the shortcut and the first letter of your argument you have to give. And double hyphen when you use, then you have to provide the full argument. I'll keep on telling you again and again in most of the sessions so that you can also start picking up what I'm talking, right? And you will also understand it. All right. So again, apt, and this time I'm firing the install command, and this is my Docker IO is the package. All right, and just hit the enter button, right? So this is now start installing it. It takes few seconds, right? And just wait for this, and then my installation will be done. All right, so we have done the installation, right? You will see the message also it has done the installation. Once it is done, my Docker command should start working now, right? The first command, normally what we do, we use Docker version, Docker hyphen hyphen version. As I said, right, whenever you use double hyphen, you have to provide the full argument name. My full argument name is version. So when you do this, it will tell you, right? It will tell you, right? It will tell you the Docker version. This is my Docker version. 24.0.5 is my recent version of Docker. So we are using the most recent version where we have installed on Ubuntu 20.4 LTS, right? So it will tell you, right? So build number and all that thing, it will tell you, right? As I said, you have to use full argument or single hyphen, then provide the first letter. So let me tell you both the things so that you can understand it. So Docker hyphen V, right? So either you can use, but what is the rule in Linux? Double hyphen and then type the full argument if you use double hyphen. Single hyphen is the shortcut key. So single hyphen means first letter of the argument, which is B, and single hyphen, right? So both will work, right? So it will save your time. So initially you are not aware, then use full argument, but later you can switch to single hyphen, right? You can start using shortcuts also, right? So this is the version which we have installed here, right? Now, so we have installed both the things. As I said, Docker CLI and everything is part of, right, the single package installer. You don't use any multiple installer for client and multiple installation for server. So where it is coming? What happened? All right. So we have to use the thing, right? Let me clear the screen again. But we have already done the verification, right? You can use Control plus L also as a shortcut. If you don't want to type the command clear, right, use, or sometimes CLS also works, right? Clear. All right. Now, if I want to check the details, right, then just say Docker version. Docker version will tell you few things in detail, right? What is my client version? What is my server version? Yesterday, remember, right? As I said, when you install Docker, Docker comes with CLI, REST API, and the Docker daemon, right? Three components, right? Don't forget it. Let me go back to my PPT. So this is what we check, right? Docker CLI, REST API, and Docker daemon, right? So let's come here and verify. For that, just don't use any hyphen, single hyphen or double hyphen. Just say Docker version, right? So here it will tell you this is my client, right? Client same version 24.0.5, right? API version, basically everything works with the API. That means I can use URLs and all that thing, right? So API are easy to call anywhere, and we can even do integration with API. So all microservice-based architecture we call API-based application, right? So the version is 1.43 is written in Go language, right? Go language is nothing but YAML. I'll talk about Go lang when we do automation and all that thing. Anyhow, we'll be doing Go lang very soon, right? Git command, so build number and all that, it will tell you when this version was made available. This version was launched on August 21st, 2023, last year in the month of August. Day was 21st and the day was Monday, right? So it was launched, right? And it was launched on Linux operating system and the server version. So these are the client details and these are my server details. So here if you see what is my Docker container engine version, same version, right? 24.0.5 and API version 1.43, right? Minimum version, when Docker was launched, this was the minimum version, but we are ahead of the version, which is most recent 1.43. And again, it is developed on Golang. So all the templates and all that thing is on here. problem. What? All right. So it will tell you all that thing, right? So build number and all that thing. So if you want to see the information of your client and server, so client and server both are packaged together. So Docker doesn't have separate client, separate server, right? Both are single package only, right? So everything is available. It's just a CLI, right? So you can see the information over here. Or, right? So let me clear the screen. Or if you want to see, as I said, all commands will begin in Docker. All commands will begin with Docker only, right? With the small letter of Docker. All commands will begin with Docker. So you can say Docker, and then you can say version or whatever. The sub command could be anything, right? Or if I want to, Docker has been installed, but I want to display the information of my Docker installed on this machine. What are the configurations it has installed with, right? I want to see all the configuration which is configured in the background, what all things it has done. I want to see that, right? So always use information command, Docker information, right? Docker information is a very big command, right? Who will type again and again? So in Linux, we can just always use first four letters, right? First four letters. So I can use Docker info, right? Because if you use big keywords, then there might be chances that you may hit some typo error, right? And again typo error always brings frustration to the people, right? So Linux is a very helping guy, right? It says, okay, you can just provide the first four letters. I will come to know what do you want, right? And it will serve the purpose, all right? So Docker info, when you type Docker info, it gives you all the details, what all has been configured in background while installing the Docker on your local machine, right? On this machine, right? So Docker info. So this is my client version, right? So 20.04 and all that thing, server version, all that thing, and it will display some kind of metrics also, right? That means if you have created any containers, it will display. Currently, I've created zero. We have only done the installation. We haven't started any container. The moment you do, you can always come and check the state. It will tell you how many containers are there and what is the running, right? If you have created 10 containers, but only one is running, it will display that, okay, in running mode, only one container, but total containers are 10, right? And if you have paused few container, pause means you don't need them, and currently you keep it on a halt mode, right? You can set it to halt, so they are not running. But later you may need it, so you can bring it again, do that. Or if you want completely, you want to stop it, you can stop it, right? Or if you have removed anything, that will also it will tell. Not remove, running, pause, and stop. These are the three states of container, and total number of containers will display here. And if you see here, there is a gap, right? There is a gap. Container, and these are the child property. This is the main property and child property. Child properties will be always not come in the same line. They'll come in as a inside line. That is how parent and child relationship, right? In YAML and all most of the things. So this is the state. Images. Did you pull any image? Any images has been downloaded on this measure? Currently, we have done nothing, right? So it will show zero. So normally, people who works in shifts, first thing they fire this command and they will get the details from this command, right? So I'll be using this command once I start running the content. I'll use the same command again, and you will see that it will give me the correct statics, right? The current state of my cluster, how many containers are running, whether they are stopped, not running, paused, right? It will display here how many images has been pulled. I can get the history directly from this command. It will pop up the history, right? So this is dynamic information automatically updated as and when you deal with containers and images, right? Yesterday I said only two things we should be bothered about, right? One is container and second is image, right? Image is the source code provider for my applications to be launched, right? And my application to be launched means container. The applications which are up and running, we call container. The installer, the source code, right, which we call images. All right. So only these two things, and here it will give me the status. And all this inform what is the server version, right? So again, 20.04 will be here. Now, Docker come with the storage also, right? So it has come with automatically all the storage drivers and automatically are bundled in Docker installer itself. When you install it, all the plugin drivers will also be part of the installer, will also be configured on your machine. So it comes with the storage driver, and the storage driver name is overlay 2, right? Initially it was overlay, but later they upgraded, and the later version they named it to overlay 1, and recent version is overlay 2. All right, overlay 2 is basically underneath storage driver, which Docker will be using on your local file system automatically. All right, it will automatically use Docker file system by using this storage driver, right? So still, you need not to hunt for anything, or you need not to download and bring from outside, right? Everything is part of an installation. and it is displaying over here that this is the name of your storage. Right? Backend file system, extfs. Extfs is basically Linux file system. Right? Linux file system we always call extfs, right? File system, right? It supports and all that thing, right? So these are internal properties of this storage, right? So the format and all that thing. Now, next is logging driver. Logging driver means the log files it will display. So all the logs will be displayed in a JSON file format, right? All my log, Docker logs, my container log, my image log, right? All the logs will be displayed in a JSON format by default. Nowadays, even in all the modern applications, we display all the logs in a JSON format because it is very easy to understand, very easy. I can load in my database also, right? If you know the monitoring tool, Splunk and all that thing, right? What we store in all these monitoring tool log files on, right? And the monitoring engine will do analysis. They have an analytical engine. This analytical engine will run through all the log files and it will do analysis and display the information. It will remove the false positive information. Only appropriate information will pick and display on the dashboard. That is how monitoring tools are very, very efficient. They need input as a log file. All right. So JSON file format is the standard format. By default, it will display all the logs in a JSON format and the driver config is automatically done. You need not to configure anything, right? This driver will configure automatically for you. The moment you install it, it will be configured. Control group, this is basically control group where you see the isolation all that. So Linux has this property and Docker basically by default use Linux control group for isolation purpose. So when you launch any container, right, it will be launched in its own isolation layer. It will not interfere with other containers running on that same machine, right? So it will be running in its isolation layer. So it's basically Linux feature which is Docker using in the version. All right. Now there are some plugins also downloaded, right? When you install your Docker, it comes with a lot of plugins also. What are those plugins? Let's understand those plugins, right? So when you want to create any volume is basically the storage. I'll be configuring the storage and there is a dedicated session for Docker volumes where I will tell you how to configure the storage so that my container data will be residing inside this volume. Containers are immutable things, right? Immutable means they will come, they will go. I will create it, I will delete it, right? But my data should not be deleted with the container. I want to store my data because in this modern world, what is most expensive thing in this world? Only data, right? Not oil. Earlier it was oil, which was the most expensive thing, but now data is the most expensive thing in this world. So we cannot lose our data, right? I may delete containers, I may delete images, I should not lose the data. So we'll be storing the data separately on the storage, and in Docker terminology, we call volume. All right, so I'll be configuring the volume. Volumes are nothing but storage. I'll be configuring, and then we will start using these volumes for our data storage purpose. Right, all my data will be residing here, and I can raise a request with my backup and storage team also that okay, please take backup every day, right, of this particular volume. Right, basically it's a path. I'll show you what is the path of this volume, and they should set up one cron job or some scheduled job so that it will take the backup of their volume, so that my data will be intact, right? If accidentally if something goes wrong, my backup is available, right? So I will tell you when we deal with volume. As I said, we have a dedicated session, and in that session, I'll focus only on configuring volume, attaching the volume with containers, how to get the data, how to create data and store on the volume, or how to read the data from the volume, vice versa. All the operations I will do with various use cases, right? So that we will talk in detail. But what what is the crux here? The takeaway here is that we already provided with the volume plugin. I can use this plugin whenever I want to configure my own storage, right? So here, this plugin I'll be using when I will start configuring the storage, right? So plugin is available and I can use this plugin, right? So just remember this, right? Anyhow, when I do the storage session, during that time again I'll be discussing about the volume and these drivers and plugin. That time I again tell you all the storage and all the things which we want to remember. All right. Now the plugin is available for network also. Docker supports almost all kind of networks, right? If you see here, right, Bridge is basically the default network, and Linux and all operating systems they use the OS capable or the underneath networking, which we call Bridge in Linux terminology. That is also supported by Docker, right? So by default, it will automatically take the default networking of the Linux environment by default, which we call Bridge. Docker also use Bridge, and once there is a separate dedication session on networking. During that time, I'll talk in detail, and I'll be creating our own dedicated network. One network for, let's say, IBM customer, another network for, let's say, some Google network or Oracle vendor. So I'll be creating all those things. and that time I'll talk more in detail about the host, right? Let's say uh, my Docker server is in data center, and as a part of our organization, we are using our own customized networking, right? And I want to use for my Docker also to be part of that network. That means it will take all the settings from the host environment, right? So my Docker will be part of the host networking, and it will be the same network. My Docker will also be part of my host network. Host means on which my other network is laid down in my organization. That networking, I will take the all the default setting from the existing host networking, and my Docker will also take those settings. So IP address and all that thing, it will automatically pick from the network, right? So this is also we can do. IP VLAN, right? So this is IP VLAN. If you have a your own subnet, private VLAN or your public VLAN, mostly we don't use for production environment. It's only for R&D purpose, right? So if you want to use and configure, right, Docker also provide with that, right? So IP VLAN, all that. So I can create my own subnet, private subnet, and I can configure my Docker as one of the server in that network, in that private VLAN I can configure, right? So it will automatically take that set. MAC VLAN. MAC VLAN, if you know the MAC IP addresses, right? The physical IP address, which we call MAC IP addresses, right? It's not the just the IP, but it's the physical IP, physical address of the machine, right? Which we call MAC address, right? So I can even configure my Docker using MAC address also, right? It's a traditional way, but it's a very powerful, right? Physical addressing. So we can use even the MAC address for our configuration. Null. I can create some for R&D purpose. I can create null network also. Null means only for Docker purpose I can use my network, but nobody else can come and connect to my network. It is not a shared network. For others, it is just a null. Null means for it doesn't exist for other people. Only for my own R&D, I can do my R&D, my research purpose. I can do create a networking, and I can do all the testing locally within Docker only. Right? Outside people cannot connect to my network. For outside people, it is a null network or a none. None or null both are same, right? So it will stay as a null for others, but for Docker, we can connect our own standalone network. Basically, it's called standalone network. Overlay by default, it comes with a Docker. And normally when you create a cluster-based environment, that means you have a multiple Docker servers running. So one Docker server wants to talk to another Docker server. Basically, Docker by default use overlay networking for its own Docker to Docker instance communication. All right. This I'll be using it overlay networking when we create a cluster-based environment for Docker, right? And that is called Docker Swarm, right? So there is a one more inbuilt module, Docker Swarm. When you create a cluster-based, cluster means collection of machines. All right, cluster of machines, right? The cluster means collection of machines. So I can have multiple Docker servers, and these servers I can club together, group together, create a cluster farm, right? So during that time we can use this thing, and Docker automatically by default comes with a Docker Swarm, but currently it is in inactive state, right? Later when I want to use it, I will fire one command and make it active, right? You have to activate it, right? So I can make it active, and once it is active, we can use cluster based Docker also, right? So various cluster based, that means group of machines of Docker, we can connect and we can have it, right? See, one of server is down, no problem. I have other parallel server which are running. My environment will be always up and running. So in those scenarios, we will create all the cluster based environment and all that. So it is by default that Kubernetes also works on cluster based environment. That means group of machines, right? Kubernetes cannot be installed on one machine, group of machines. Same way, Docker also has one more parallel to Kubernetes called Docker Swarm. All right. Docker Swarm is basically a cluster-based Docker environment, right? So we'll also configure. We have a session, basically multiple sessions to understand Docker. I'll be creating the cluster and all that time. During that time, I'll make it activate and start using it. And by default, it will switch to this overlay network. It's the default network of things. So we have all the plugins available here, right? One more plugin, log. All right. That means I can integrate my Docker with various other monitoring tools. I can take the Docker logs and send it to other monitoring tools for my analysis, processing, dashboard. I can check the health of my Docker servers all the time, my application health check, all the things by routing these logs. So Docker supports with so many plugins, right? AWS logs. If you are using AWS environment and AWS databases, AWS Kubernetes, AWS other cluster environment, right? So we can even route the logs to AWS, right? It will automatically convert to AWS logs, and AWS will read my Docker logs, right, in this format. Or if you are using other monitoring tool, right? But Fluent is basically ELK. If you have heard the name of ELK monitoring tool, ELK is again from Amazon only, Elastic Login Test Kibana, right? The short form is ELK, but the long name, if the full form of ELK is Elastic Login Test Kibana, is again a monitoring tool where it will give the dashboard and we can route the Docker log to ELK, and then all the logs will be displayed on my ELK dashboard. So I can track my application, my container, my machine, everything. We can do full end-to-end tracking using this monitoring. So I can route the logs to that. Or if you're on Google, right? If you're on Google platform, you can route the logs to Google GCP logs, right? Which we call Google Cloud Logs, right? And Jelf and GeneraLD are again the monitoring format where we can route it, right? So I can route it to others. So you see, Docker log supports so many monitoring and other formats also, right? JSON, as I said, by default is JSON format. All the log will be displayed in JSON format, right? So by default is JSON. Or if you want to display in a local file format, right? Local file format means Linux uses default local file format. We can even use the local file format for my logging also. Log entries, right? Log entries and Splunk are again monitoring tool, right? If you know Datadog and all that monitoring tool, Splunk is very, very powerful. Splunk is basically very expensive and very powerful monitoring tool, and it is used as an SIEM, right? Software is basically security information event management tool, SIEM. In short, we say Splunk. I can send my Docker logs to Splunk monitoring tool. It will automatically get converted into Splunk, right? And Splunk monitoring tool will analyze my Docker logs or syslog, system log files. The main in the format, all the system files, all the system logs are displayed. Even I can convert my Docker logs into syslog, and it will be in that format also. So you see, my Docker logs can be converted into multiple formats, and all the plugins are available. Right? All these are under plugins, and under the plugin, all the logs plugins are also available. I can integrate with any monitoring tool, right? Whatever monitoring tools are available in this market, in this modern times, like whatever monitoring tools are available, I can send all my log files there. All right, then runtime. Runtime is basically container runtime. Basically, we say runc. Runc means container runtime. So in short, we say runc, or basically we say container D, right? You say Docker D is also called container D, right? So it supports all the format V1 and V2 format. Basically, it's for integration. When I integrate with Kubernetes or any tool, basically we integrate with runtime. I have to tell where my Docker is running, so which file, which directly what is the default path and all that thing you have to configure in Kubernetes. So the Kubernetes can talk to my Docker automatically. I need not to tell him that, okay, here is my Docker, where is my Docker, here is my Docker, go there, go here, come here, find there, right? No need to mention, it will automatically go there. So this runtime environment, right? All my containers and everything will be basically it's an engine, right? It's an engine, right? So which we call runtime runc. So default you see, default is runc. So it's a container runtime, which is by default, and it has its own init binaries and all that thing, right? So Docker engine binaries and all that thing, right? So it has its own thing, and you can see all the details about this. Now, all the modern tools, they come with their security layer. Docker also come with the security layer, and these are the two security packages which are already inbuilt in Docker. One is called Armor, App Armor, and other is SecCom, right? So this we will see, I'll show you when we talk about Docker Swarm, all right? So App Armor and all things. So nowadays, we are not dependent on third party, right? Earlier my environment was hacked, right? In traditional days, our environment was easily hacked and attacked. And then we say, okay, you have not configured, and then we have to buy the third party solutions, and then we have to configure and all that. But nowadays, modern tools, they are built come with a security feature, right? And that is how we also say not only just DevOps, we say DevSecOps, because security we cannot isolate it. Security should be part of my software development, right? SDLC cycle. So that is the reason all modern tools, they come with their built-in security, right? So, and it is again follow their own profile, built-in profile. I need not to do any configuration. It's inbuilt, right? So this is thing, but we will get to see the effect when we have a cluster-based environment, because one machine will talk to another machine. They cannot just talk to another machine. They will always talk to trusted machines only. How they'll talk to trusted machine, that okay, this is the known machine and not the unknown machine, right? Hacker can also connect to my cluster, right? But there is a something which it will do validation very soon. It will first ask for certificate, then the certificate will be verified, right? And it will check, okay, this is trusted server, then it will start talking to that server. Otherwise, they will not talk to that server. They'll say, you are unknown to me, right? And they'll kick him out, right? So all that we will discuss later on. All right. So this is our kernel version 5.15. This is the recent version. Operating system is Ubuntu 20.04. LTS long-term support, right? This is the Linux OS type. Architecture is 64-bit. And my machine configuration from AWS is one CPU, 1 GB RAM. Right, one CPU, 1 GB RAM. You can see it here. CPU is one, and memory, total memory is how much? Right, 1 GB, approximately, right, 954. Right. So this is approximately 1 GB. Right. So this is the CPU which we have taken from AWS, and this is the IP address from where we have got from the AWS, and on which this machine we have installed Docker. So Docker is capturing all the details. Right. Docker is capturing all the details here. All right. Now, only thing which you have to remember here is this is the thing you have to remember. Right? Anyhow, if you don't remember, I'll make you to remember. Don't worry about it. Right? I'll ask you how to remember it because every day I'll be dealing with Docker root path. Right? So this is my Docker root directory. Right?
Hi,
So
Prashant.
uh, yeah, please go ahead.
So you have installed the Docker on the root node, right? I have
Mhm.
installed okay on the bare metal system on the host name. So when I'm
Mhm.
typing the IP config, it is not displaying. So I have to install on the root only or the host name.
What is host name? User is root. Which user
Okay.
you are using? So my
I'm using
user is root. I'm not changing any config. Only I'm logging with my. I switch from my default Ubuntu user, which comes with AWS, which is very normal user, doesn't have any admin privileges. So I switch to root user by firing the sudo command. You can also do the same thing. Sudo space su and then put a minus sign.
oh understood.
All right. So just user I have changed, nothing else. All right.
Got it. Got it.
Okay. All right. So this is what we have to remember. Docker root directory is varlib docker. All right, varlib docker is my root directory. Just remember that, right? Everything will be visible inside this path, right? My volume, my plugin, my driver, everything. So let me just show you quickly, then we'll start doing some operations on Docker. ls means display, right? List. And if I just do copy paste this path, copy paste. All right. So you see, everything is available here. So whenever I create container, all the container information will be stored in this folder. These are folders. Blue color are all folders, right? And the file in Linux, the file will be displayed in white color. Folders will be displayed in blue color, right? That is how the Ubuntu is very powerful operating system. Ubuntu gives all these color combinations and all that thing. All right. So container, whenever I spin up any container, all content info will be stored in this container folder. Whenever I am dealing with images, all image related information, right? Image ID, image name, which image, what version, all info will be stored in this folder. Guys, please go mute because we are recording the session and it will degrade our quality, recording quality. Please go mute if you are not talking. All right. So image information will be stored inside the image. Network information will be stored in networking, right? As I discussed about network, we will be, as there are one session at least for all these topics. So that time we'll talk in detail. Overlay, plugins, all plugins are available in this folder. Runtimes available in this folder. Docker Swarm, when you create a cluster base, is installed here. This one temp folder also, I'll be using the temp folder also. Volumes, all the volumes are available, right? So just remember this path, right? And very soon we'll be using it. Don't worry about it. If you remember well, and if you don't remember, every day I'll be talking about it. So this is a Docker root directory, always varlib Docker. All right. So what was the command we used? Docker info command. Sorry, Docker info command we used to display the information. All right. So we check the version and then we fire Docker info command. And there's one beautiful command in Linux. Whatever we have done so far, right? I will be taking the history and I'll be sending you every day as a notepad file. Whatever I'm doing, I'll take this command, copy paste in notepad file, put the today's date, Docker command today's date, and I'll be uploading this file also every day. So date wise also you'll be getting all the things at the end of it. And it gives you number. Which command I first fired in the morning, then second command, third command, like that, like that, like that. All right. So this I will be sending you. Now let me start with our testing, right? We'll do verification. So let me spin up one container, Docker run hello world. All right. So Docker run hello world is the image. From where this image is coming, let me show you. Right. Yesterday we spoke about Docker Hub. All right. Docker Hub. So I'm logging. I'm going to the registry server. Right. As I said, we are not calling this as a repository server. We are calling registry because we have to register. And I'm looking at hello world. So let me search here. So if you see here, this is the image hello world. Just come here. This is the hello world image basically for checking the Docker, and it's an official Docker image, right? So Docker is providing this image for testing purpose, right? So this is the image, and we will not go through all the links, right? Docker community and all that thing. I'll talk little later, not for this image, but for some other thing I'll talk. So let me go here, and I'm taking that image hello world, right? If you want to give some name and all that thing, we can give all the name also, right? Hyphen name. I want to give some name to my Docker, right? So let's say hello, right? Hello 123 is the name to my container. I want to give some name to my container. So name, and then give one space, or if you don't want to give one space, you can directly assign him by giving is equal to sign, right? You can use directly. If you don't using the space, you can just use is equal to, and you can do that. Or if you are not using space, and if you are just giving after that, so it will basically it's a key, and immediately after that it will take the value, right? Key and value. So this is my key. Key is the name of my argument as name, and this is the value I'm passing that. Okay, my name of container is hello123, and this is the image. Right? If you don't give any specific version, by default it will take latest. Normally versioning we do by colon, right? All the versioning we do by colon. If I want to store, if I want to capture one particular version of the image, right? Put the colon and then give version 1.10 or 1.1, right? Any version which you want to give, you should give. If you're not giving by default, it will take this thing, right? If you don't give, then by default, it will take latest. So whatever the latest image is available on Docker Hub repository, it will pull that image and it will start creating this container, right? If you don't give, right? So I'm not giving, and I'll show you whether it has taken latest or not, right? So when you file this command, so basically what it has done, unable to find image locally on my machine. So where it will go, first it will check whether my this image is locally available on my machine or not. If it is not available, it will go and pull from library. Library is what? Docker Hub. Docker Hub is also called, we call library. Why library? What we keep in library? All books. What we keep in Docker Hub? All images. So it will go to Docker Hub and look for this image hello world, right? And then it will start pulling the image. Once it will pull the image, it will complete, it will display the SHA number, some digest SHA number. This is my ID of the image. All right.
Prashant,
It's basically
what if
256
my
characters.
server does not have internet connectivity? So how it will it be for
We
some
will talk it later.
Okay.
I'll tell you all those things, right? You have to keep download the image on some other repository and pull from there if you don't have the internet and all that thing, right? Anyhow, I'll be covering those use cases. Don't worry about it. All right, just focus it here, what I'm saying, okay? Otherwise, you will miss the important information. Now here, right, the point to be noted is follows the SHA 256 format. SHA 250 is basically NASA format, right? NASA has given this format, and very soon we have adopted in our SDLC methodology. That means in software lifecycle, we are using this methodology. So SHA 256 is basically NASA format, and this is my image ID. Image ID is nothing but UUID, right? It's a unique ID of this image, right? This hello world image. Every image will have its own unique ID, and Docker will do keep tracking of this thing. And from where it will getting, it is coming from Docker Hub, from where this image is pulled and downloaded, right? So it is pulled from Docker Hub and it is downloaded from there. And it will tell you after the ID, it will tell you the status also, right? The status says that, okay, we have downloaded the newer images of Hello World. As I said, if you don't mention the version, by default, it will pick the latest. And if you see here, by default, it has picked up the latest by default. Because explicitly, you have to mention the version. If you don't mention explicitly the version, then it will by default, it will take the latest as a version. It has taken the latest version, and this has been downloaded. right? And it will tell you the status also, and this is the ID of your image which has been downloaded, right? And we follow the NASA format, right? By default, it's called SHA 256. All right, so this is the thing. Now, as I said, this is the container command. So we have started the container from this world, and Docker is saying hello to me, right? Hello from Docker. This is the image is customized in that way that it will just display one message, right? The image is a very short image, and this image just display the message just for verification, validation whether your Docker installation is really done successfully well or not, right? So you can check. So if you get this message hello from Docker, that means your installation has really went well without any issues, without any hiccup, without any error, right? Now to get this message, right, pay the attention, which I discussed yesterday in theoretical session. Same thing you have to understand from here. This message shows that your installation appears to be correctly done. Right? That means my installation has really went well with Docker. Just a verification step, right? And it is giving a message also. Now you should read the whole thing, right? To generate this message, Docker took the following steps. All right, Docker took the following steps. So what has happened in the background? Remember, yesterday we discussed all the things, right? This and this communication we discussed yesterday. So same thing, I will just verify here. So you see Docker client. Right? Who is Docker client? This is the client. I am the client. I fire this command. I am giving this instruction to Docker that, hey, Docker, please run the hello world container for me, right? And when it started the container, it has to pull the image, all the work it has done in the background. So it has pulled the image and we got the message hello from Docker. But what has gone down? So Docker client contacted Docker daemon, right? That means the client where I filed the command Docker run command has contacted Docker daemon, right? It has contacted this guy because processing, who is the compute power? Processing unit is here. Server is having the processing unit. Client is just an interface. It doesn't process anything, right? But how it has reached to Docker servers? So you see here, Docker client contacted the Docker daemon, right? Docker daemon. How? Through REST API. So Docker client has contacted Docker daemon, and then once the Docker daemon will get my command. What is the instruction I have given? I have given that okay, I want to start container on hello world. That means it has to pull the image hello from where it will pull the image from Docker, right? From where it will pull the image from Docker Hub, right? I'll show you. The link is already configured in Docker, right? I think we missed in Docker info, right? So this link is already configured, right? So it will always go to Docker Hub by default, right? No configuration are needed. The moment you do installation, the installation itself will do all the configuration. So it has contacted, right? Daemon and my instruction, right? Because it's a processing unit. Docker daemon is the process. So it will go to Docker Hub and start pulling the image. Which image? The image which I mentioned here, hello world, right? This image. So it will go and do that. And Docker daemon created a new container from that image which runs the executable and that produces the output that you are currently reading. So that image, once you start the container, it will display, it will echo this message. Basically, the image is programmed in that way, right? Basically, in the image, we have written the echo message that it will display hello from Docker if the container will start, right? And this message will trigger when the container will start. So it says the Docker daemon created a new container from that image which runs the executable. It will execute that message which produce the output that you are currently reading, right? This message it will produce and we are able to read this message, right? So it is saying the Docker daemon streamed that output to Docker client. That means what it is means I send the command here, the Docker run hello world. So it will pull the image and it will run the container, it will start the container. And whatever the image has given me output, it will collect the output and stream that output back to the client, right? So first it come here, do the processing, collected the output and send it back to the client, right? So this is how has been done. So this is how it says Docker daemon streamed that output to Docker client, right? That is which sent to the terminal, to your terminal. That terminal means who is the client? I am the client. So it has sent this output. So you see how the communication is happening, right? From client, it's sent to Docker daemon. Docker daemon is my server, right? My engine, Docker engine. So the Docker engine will do all the activity, all the actions, right? And then whatever output is coming, it is sending, it is streaming that output back to the client. That is how we are able to see. And it happens very fast. So it is explaining me here, right? All the things it is explaining me here, over here, right? You can try with some other container, all that thing, right? So Docker run is basically container command and we can do all that thing. And it says if you want to read for all the information, all the thing, go to this thing, right? So we are already here, right? hub.docker.com, we are already here. This is our URL, hub.docker.com, right? Which is it is shown. So by default it goes there. We are already here. Right, so we are already here. So this is what it is saying. More information, go to the document, official documentation of Docker, right? And you can also go and study yourself, right? Documentation is really powerful. Nowadays, every vendor, they are giving their own documentation. They have a huge technical team, right? UX team, right? User experience team and documentation team. They give huge documentation. So everything is available online. We can also go to this online link and get the documentation. So you see whatever action has been done, it is here. Now how to do verify? You have to file some command, docker image ls, right, to list the image, right? This is the header, right? Always it will give you header as a 5 column. One column is the repository from where it is coming. So the repository from where it is coming is hello world. What is the tag? Tag is basically version, right? Tag is nothing but a version. So the version associated with this is latest, right? And this is the image ID, right? Image ID. So basically, Docker maintains all the IDs, right? But it will display in a 12 digit, right? Because we cannot remember 256 characters and all that thing. So if you see here, 4 in my middle, 4 on the left hand side, 4 on the right hand side. So Docker always display 12 digit ID, right? As a shortcut, 12 digit ID, image ID, container ID, network ID, right? Volume ID, everything it will display as a 12 digit ID. We'll be talking about these IDs very soon. This image was created 8 months ago, and this is the size of the image, right? Just KB, because just display the message hello world, nothing else, right? So in this image, only it is programmed that it will just echo the message, right? Or it will display the message hello world, hello Docker. That's it, right? So it says hello from Docker. That is the only thing. That is why it is very small image, right? What is the size of the image? 13.3 KB. So we can use Docker image ls, or you can use Docker images, right? Basically, this ls is basically clubbed together here, right? So it is basically ls, or you just combine by images. So if you are using singular, then use ls, or if you are using plural, then use directly images. All right, when you use, it will display the same thing. So normally most of the time I don't use image ls, I use images. All right, and it will display the same thing. This is my image ID, same thing it will display over here. Right, now containers, to display the list of container, we use different command. We use ps command, docker ps means print the status of running container only, print the status of running container only, right? So currently container, no container is running, right? But where we have created one container hello world, where it has gone, so ps will display only the status of running container. Ps means print status. All right, to display all means whether it is running, not running, stopped, right, paused, or anything. To display all, right, ps will display only running. The status of running container, it will display all means it will display everything. So if you see here, this is my container ID, and as I said, all the IDs are basically 12 digits. So if you count it here, 4 on my left hand side, 4 is middle, 4 on my left hand side. So 4 plus 4 plus 4, 12 digit ID. From where this container is created? From the image hello world, right? From the image hello world. Forget about this command. I'll tell you in the next session when, because some other information is required. When we touch upon that type, I'll tell you about this command. So just ignore for today, and later we'll realize. When I created this container just 10 minutes ago, right? Today only, just 10 minutes ago, few minutes ago, I created. This container is currently, what is the state? It is exited 10 minutes ago. So basically what this image does, display the message and exit, because that is how the image is programmed. In that image, you have just echo the message. So it will display once and it will go off. This container not up and running, it will exited. So it has exited automatically. And this is the name of my container. If you see the command which I fired, right? So here I gave the name of my container, right? Name is hello world, right? This is the thing which we did, hello 123. So hello 123. If you don't give name, right, Docker will assign some random name by itself, right? Docker maintains some inbuilt list, and randomly it will assign some name to the container. So always good idea to give your name, right? So I've given the name hello 123. So this is the name. So this container is basically exited, not running. So when you say ps means only the running container status it will display. PS means print status, it will display, right? As a new user, right? What people do, right? Instead of PS and all that thing, right? So you say container ls, right? Image ls like container ls, right? You can say container ls. Currently nothing is running, so it will display nothing is running. Container ls hyphen hyphen all. So it will display the same thing. Some people say, right? But these are really big keywords to type again in a container ls, right? So if you want to see the list of containers, say container ls. If you want to see the list of images, say image ls, right? So that is how we can differentiate between container image. Or you can use ps. Ps is the default command. Basically ps is Linux command. So Docker also use most of the Linux command. Ps means print status, right? So print status of only running containers. Or if you want to see all, then put one argument hyphen hyphen all. As I said, double hyphen, or if you can use single hyphen also, right? Single hyphen, right? Single hyphen that means the first letter, so I can use hyphen a also. Instead of all, I can just say hyphen a, right? So this also you can do, right? It's just a shortcut. Double hyphen means full argument. Single hyphen means first letter of the argument, and with single hyphen you can do, right? So this is the thing which I have done just here, right? So this is how will be. Now if you just go and check your Docker info, right? So as I said, dynamically it will update the information there. So now if you just go here and if you check how many containers you have created, one. Is that container running? No, that is already existed. Exited means it is not running, it is stopped, right? So display message will go in the stop state, right? So it will stop and you will see currently it is not running, it is stopped, right? How many images you have pulled? Only one, hello world image. So if you see, this information will dynamically update every day, right? So this is how it will display over here. So I'll do something here quickly, right? So then we will do. So whenever you want to pull some image, always use docker pull command, and any image you want to pull from your GitHub repository, right? Any image you want to pull from Git repository, you can just say that. Any of you are hitting an hour, right? Can we connect tomorrow, guys? Are you available? Tomorrow is what, Sunday?
Yeah,
Okay,
well,
just
from my side available. You can check rest.
yeah. Let me quickly take the consent because it's Saturday anyhow. But let me check. Are you guys? Other guys are available or not available?
No, from my end,
Morning, at least for morning, 8 o'clock, 1 hour or so. So Prasad is not available, right? Or you are available, Prasad? Can you please confirm once again?
no, I'll be not available.
I think let's
Yeah,
take the voting option.
I
So
may
whoever
not
is
be.
available.
Yeah, that's what I'm checking.
I may not be available.
So who are not available? Okay. By default, I'm assuming everybody is available. Who are not available? Please tell me.
Okay, whoever is
Me,
available,
Ramesh. I may not be
please
available.
maybe raise their hand, something like that.
Yeah, either way is fine. Or
Available
just
or not
tell.
available.
I'm just saying who are not available. Just let me know. You can raise hand or use not available. Otherwise, by default, I'm saying you are available. So Ramesh and Prasad, two guys are not available, and Sandeep also. All right, so then we cannot have session. But majority
Hey,
people are
sorry, I am available. I have raised for available.
sorry. Okay, okay. Okay, so Prasad, you are not available, and Ramesh, are you available? Yes
I
or no?
may not be available, but I will try to join.
Okay, okay. Sure, because you have just begun the session, and I don't want to stress people. But I don't want to skip because everything is interconnected. See, I take all baby steps, then I'll go to the advanced level. So baby step means we are just building our foundations, we are building our basics. So that is why I'm just asking, because if you skip the session, then it will be likely not good. All right. So whenever you pull any image, right, any image, let's say Ubuntu, and this time I want to mention, if I don't mention version, by default it will pull the latest tag. So I have to mention, let's say 20.04. All right. I want to pull this image. So this image will be pulled from the Docker Hub, right? And now if I just check Docker images, Docker image ls, as I said, or images, right? Both are fine. You can do Docker image ls, right? And fire this command, or most of the time I fire Docker images, which is more convenient for me. And for Docker doc and press the tab key, it will display directly. No need to type full. All right. So two images. One is hello world, which we downloaded, And one more image I downloaded. Now this time, last time I didn't mention text, so by default it has taken the latest. This time I mentioned explicitly the version 20.04. Explicitly I mentioned the version. So versioning, just follow the colon and then versioning will be followed by colon. So always mention colon and give the explicit version. This is the version I mentioned, it has downloaded. Image ID, as I said, 12-digit ID, it will display. This image was created 6 weeks ago and it was uploaded in GitHub, Docker Hub. From there we have downloaded, and the size of this image is 72.8 MB. All right, these are the size of the MB, right? So we have downloaded the image, but this we have just pulled the image. We haven't started the container. We have just pulled the image. To start the container, we have to always use Docker run command. All right, Docker run command. And here I use some. Sorry, you were saying something to me or just like that? Okay, I thought anybody was saying something to me. It's fine. Okay. Docker run, right? And if you forget the command, right, help, you can always take the help, right? So we can take the help of the command or anything which you forgot, right, and you don't remember it, right? So you can just mention run and help. You say this thing, it will display your whole command. So let me go on top. So this is the command I just typed, docker run and then help. So what is this command all about? It will tell you. So basically this command is used for what? It will tell you under usage. So Docker run, basically Docker run gives some options and then the image name, and you can find some command or argument also, right? Basically what this command does, it creates a new container from an, right? This is the purpose of this command. The usage of this command is create and run a new container. So whenever you want to create a new container, use Docker run command and mention the image name also, right? So from that image, because who will provide the source code to this container, we have to give the image name also. Then it will start the content from that image. Because what is container? Running instance of an image. All right. So this is what it does, right? And you can use some alias also. Instead of Docker run, you can use container run also. But the command is really big. So normally we always use Docker run direct. But if you guys are new to this thing, so if you want to use various container commands, so mention the keyword container, right? Docker container ls, Docker container run, like that, or you just say Docker container and help. It will give you all the commands, right? Basically, we are using shortcut, right? We are not using the full big command, right? So we are just narrow down our command. But you can always use help and you can find it. Now it uses some options. Option means some argument. If you want to add something, use hyphen a. As I said, single hyphen, right? And the first letter of that command. So add means hyphen a, or give hyphen and pull the full command, right? So this is the command. If you want to add some post list or something, you can customize it, right? If you want to add some CPU and all that, anyhow I'll be doing it. Number of CPU you want to declare and all that thing. We can always assign the CPU and memory to containers directly, right? That is the beauty of this Docker and Kubernetes. Kubernetes, all that, anyhow, there is a separate topic, resource utilization, resource allocation, resource quota, I will defining the limits, all that thing. We'll talk in detail, but we have the options. We can always type this thing. Hyphen D, I'll be using most of the time. Hyphen D is basically, it runs in the background, right? Every time what happens, it fills my complete screen, it will fill with log file and some information which I'm not interested. So I run my containers in the background. It will display with the whether it is created or not. If it's created, it will display just the ID, right? And give me the status. So which is one liner status I want. I don't want the whole list to write all the log files, what it has done and all that thing. Right? Initially I might be interested, but later on I don't want to see the complete list. I just want to see whether it is created or not. So one liner, so we can run, right? And it will display only container ID when it is created successfully or not, right? So we'll be using this hyphen D very often. Hyphen E, if you want to set some environment variable during runtime of the container, you can set some environment variable, hyphen E. Anyhow, I will be doing it with hyphen E and all that thing. So we'll come to know. There's other way also. We can put it in our YAML file itself and we can do, but we have a sessions and we'll talk about all that thing. Hyphen H and all that thing. If you want to mention that, okay, this container, when you have a cluster, right? And instead of server 1, right, you want to put it, you want to start this container on server 2 or server 3 or server 4 or any other host name you mention, it will start on that. And provided those machines should be connected, they should be in the same network, we can even do that. So when we start the clustering, that time we will do the load balancing. All clusters should not go to one machine. They will do load balancing. So during that time, we'll be using it. Hyphen I'll be using most of the time to create a interactive session, right? For my standard input and output, I'll be creating my own session. So when we are multiple people, when we are working, we should not conflict with each other, right? So I can create my dedicated session. You can create your dedicated session, and the session, whatever you are doing, it will be private to yourself only. Nobody can do anything, right? So we can also create our own session, interactive session, and we can do that. If you want to attach some label, anyhow, I'll be having sessions on labels and all that thing. So I'll be using label selector, all that thing in detail. So we do the labeling also, right? If my application is front end, I do labeling that, okay, this is my front end. If it's my back end, I just label at my back end. So all that thing, front end, back end, we can categorically, we can have our application our application classification that, okay, these are my front end applications, these are my back end application, or middle tier, or any other naming standard which we want to follow. We can give the labels to our containers also. Hyphen memory, same way CPU, same way we can allocate memory also, right? We can set the memory limits and all that things. So anyhow, we'll be doing it, all the resource allocation and all that. Even we will be checking what is the current usage. There are commands which will be checking all that thing. Hyphen P, there are two P. One is small p, one is capital P. So basically, these are the port number. That capital P will display all the port numbers. And explicitly, if you want to define any port number, use hyphen small p, right? So very soon I'll be launching the port numbers and I'll be starting the application. Probably tomorrow I'll show you, no, not tomorrow, probably Monday I'll show you how we can spin up the container on the specific port number. So this we will be doing. And then hyphen Q, right? Hyphen Q, basically it will suppress and quietly it will clear the content. Basically it's the background again only, right? It will not display all the information. So we can keep the quiet and it will display all the information background, not on the screen. All that we can suppress, right? So all these information. Hyphen T also I'll be using to create a pseudo terminal session for myself. So when I create an interactive session, I create my pseudo terminal session also, and I'll be firing with all command, all action from my session also. So this I'll be using it. In the next session, I'll talk more about it. If you want to log in with particular user, that option is also available. Right? Normally for backend database application, we don't directly log in. We pass user and credentials. Right? Then only we log into database. Database we never keep open connection. We always do have the authentication, and every user has a defined role, read only role or read and write or role, or which table, which column, all that we can define and we can use role. Volume, as I said, this is related to storage. I'll be creating the volumes and attaching to my containers for data retrieval or creating the data, right? And we will keep the data on the storage. So I'll be using the volume when we have a session. Work DR also, I can set the default path, right? For my application, if there's any default path, normally for Java application, Python application, we set default directory, home directories and all that thing. So I can use hyphen D, hyphen W, right? Hyphen W is for the thing. So all these are the help command we can use and we can create. All right. So let me create one simple thing and then we will end this session, right? So just allow me for a few more minutes. Docker. I can use Docker run command. It's a container command, and I can use any other. Hyphen D is for detach background. Hyphen I for interactive and hyphen T for terminal. So these commands I'll be using every day, right? One way is split, separately and put hyphen, hyphen, hyphen and split like this. Or another thing is we can also use together. So I can use together also, right? So I can use together also. So by default, this hyphen is common. This hyphen is common. It is understood that, okay, hyphen is attached with hyphen D, hyphen I, hyphen T. I can use like this, and I can change this order to anything. Instead of DIT, I can change it into ITD, anything. Arguments, you can put it in front, back, or in any order, right? Or you can put hyphen TID, any order you can put, right? Basically, they are working separate. They are working as a separate hyphen I and then hyphen D, right? They are working like separately, but to look nice and all that thing, we can club together and I can use in any order, right? So D means detach, I means interactive, T means terminal, right? And then I can create some name. Let's say test 123, right? Test 123, right? So this is the key, and immediately after that value. If you are fine with it, you can use, or if you are not fine with it, you want to do assignment like this, key and value, you can do is equal to sign. But don't put a space, right? There's no space between. And then use any image, right? Let's say I'm using Nginx, right? And let's say I'm using some version, let's say 20.0, right? Nginx is the world's fastest web server application. I'll talk more in detail in the next time. So let me just create. So Docker run command basically 20.0 version is not there. 22.1 might be 20 not found. Okay, let's take some other image.
Latest may work, right?
Yeah, latest work. I don't want to use latest. Latest will work. Okay, let's use latest. Next time we'll find out which is the appropriate version attached to this thing, and let me use latest. All right. So first it will find out unable to find right on local machine. Then it will go to Docker Hub and it will pull from here. And this image has a slightly heavy in size, very big image. So it will display layer by layer, and once the image is displayed, it will display in the NASA format, which is SSA format, and it will give you the message that okay, this one so image has been downloaded, right? And we just go and check Docker images. Right, so you see Nginx has been downloaded with the tag latest, right? And this is my image which was created 3 months ago that has been downloaded, right? Somebody create this image and upload it in Docker Hub, right? So that image we have downloaded and Docker PS. So if you see, this is the name I have given, right? Where is my command? Right, this is the name hyphen name test123. So hyphen name test123 is our name, and it's created from this image Nginx. This is my container ID. So when you say PS means running status. So this contains up and running. If you see, this contains up and running since last 43 seconds. All right. And now, if you check Docker PS -a, it will display everything, all. Right. So previously we created hello world, right, which is exited. Right. So that is also there. But when you say PS, it will display only the running container. All right. And same thing, right? Docker images, right, and Docker PS. Right. So this is how it will display. Now, I can start and stop this container also, right? So Docker info, just quickly go there. So how many containers we created? 2 containers. One is Nginx, and later last time we created hello world, right? How many containers are running out of 2? Only one is running. Which is running Nginx container, the recent container which is running. How many stop, right? The hello world container is not running. It is in stop mode. So it is stop. How many total images? Total 3, right? In between we pull one image Ubuntu also, but we haven't started container. So this is how total 3 images are there, and you can see it here, right? All the 3 images. When you say Docker images command, you will see all the 3 images are here. 1, 2, 3. All right. When you say container, this is the only container which is running. When you say container PS-a, both the containers will display here. All right. Both the containers are displaying here. All right. Now, all right. Now, whatever containers are running, I'll just take guys 1 more minute, right? Because we are already in middle of the thing. So I can stop this container, right? Let's say I don't need this container. All right. Docker stop and give the container name or container ID, because name is associated with the ID, or you can use ID. Let me use this ID, copy. Paste. So I'm stopping this container because I don't need it. My testing has been done and now I don't need it. So now if you just go and check Docker PS, this container is not there because we forcefully stopped it. But if I check -a means all, this container also exited 11 seconds ago. This container test123 exit. Test123, which one container? From image Nginx. All right. So we have stopped it. If I want to start it again, right? So as I said, all command will begin with Docker, and I want to start. So just say start and give the ID of this. Last time we used ID, let me use this time name, right? What is the name? Test123. So container started, it will display the name here that okay, this started, or you can check with Docker PS command, right? So this container again up and running just 6 seconds ago. It was created 3 minutes ago, but we stopped it, and just now 6 seconds ago I can again started it. So it's up and running. All right, it's up and running. So we can start, stop, right? If you want to do cleanup, you want to remove everything, right? So when you say container -a, if you want to remove, so what you have to do, remember for containers use rm. Rm is remove command, right? Rm command is remove command, and always use -f. Normally what happens, you have to first stop the container and delete, right? So in one step, if I want to do, just say f. F means force, right? And then which container you want to use, you can use id or name, right? Let's say I want to use this id, copy, paste, right? And one more, give one space and select the second one also, copy and paste. So I've removed both the container. Now if you just go and check docker ps -a, or a means all, right? Nothing is running. We have removed everything from this machine. Nothing running. Same way for images. All right, for images, right? Separate command. What is the command? Rm is for container. I means image. So no confusion. Rm, whenever you use docker rm is for containers. I means image. Remove image. So rmi, and then use this IDs. Right. So we can use ID or we can use name. But when you use name, remember, always remember with the tag. Right. If you just say only Ubuntu, right, it will not remove. Right. It will say image not found. Right? It says image found, not found, right? No response, right? Always use the tag, right? Or use the ID, right? So normally it is easy to remember, right? That is why we display always deal with IDs, and Docker always display the IDs for us, right? For all the operations to be very smooth, right? Otherwise, you have to remember tag and all that thing. So I'm just copy. So RMI is for images. Just remember that. Then you can use name or ID. Now you see I'm remembering Nginx here. Then I'm remembering Hello World here. And how many images we have? Is there anything else? Let's go and verify. One image is here because we put latest tag, right? Ubuntu latest. So Ubuntu latest doesn't exist. What exists? Ubuntu 20.04, right? So we made a mistake. So Docker RMI, I for images, and then I'm using name, not ID this time, Ubuntu colon 20.04. Then it will be removed, right? So it is removed, right? Now if you just go and say Docker images, nothing is there. So everything is clean. When I say Docker PS, nothing is there. When I say Docker PS -a means all, nothing is. So everything is removed. All right. So this is how we'll be dealing with Docker. All command line, no coding. All right. So just very simple things we did. What we did today, right? So I can just go and display the history. Anyhow, I'll be sending you your command type file. All right. So what all things we did, everything is here. So this is how I'll be sending you the files also every day. If you have recording and if you want to just verify, right? These are the commands and all that things we have done. I'll be sending you in the notepad file every day. Copy and put it in notepad file, and I'll be sending you. All right, and they are in numbered, right? So you should not get confused. First command which we fired, second, third, like that, like that. All the things are available. All right, I'll be sending you this thing also. So tomorrow, guys, we are not meeting. We'll meet directly on Monday.
Your name is Prashant Benual, right?
Sorry,
Prashant Benual. Your complete name?
Prashant Pariyar.
Prashant Pariyar.
Yes,
Okay.
I'll be sharing my details and everything. Don't worry about it. Right? Everything I'll be sharing, email IDs and all that thing. So tomorrow we are not meeting. We'll meet directly on Monday. I'll inform Visualpath also, right? And guys who have not done registration, right? So please do register, because otherwise you will miss a lot of things, all the training materials and all that. All right, guys. Any question before we wrap up?
Yeah, I had a question earlier. I just put it in the chart. Like my question was, when we pull the images, where these images will be stored on the box? With they will store in some memory or the path of where lab Docker, some specific path, right? Earlier we have seen
Yes,
that.
Warlib Docker.
Where live Docker? Okay, but yeah.
Yes. Next time, just remind me. I'll show you, because I have deleted all the images. You will not find anything. Next time, anyhow, I'll be doing a lot of things and I'll show you all. So it will be in the default root directory, default path varlib docker, and inside images folder. Because varlib docker, you will see all the docker build folders. And same way for containers also, you'll be able to see varlib containers. All right, guys. Okay, guys. Enjoy the weekend. Have a good day, and I'll see you again same time on Monday.